The black SUV came through the intersection, doing at least 60. Marcus Hayes saw it happen from across the street, saw the luxury sedan stall out in the crosswalk, saw the driver inside frantically turning her key. He dropped his mop bucket. Water spread across the convenience store entrance he'd been cleaning for the past 20 minutes, but he was already running. His work boots slapped against wet pavement. Cold October rain soaked through his thin jacket. The SUV driver wasn't slowing down. Marcus could see the woman in the sedan now, her face pale through the windshield, her hands frozen on the steering wheel. She'd given up on the ignition. She was just staring at the vehicle barreling toward her. Marcus didn't think. Thinking was a luxury. He slammed his palms against her driver's side window. She jerked her head toward him. Her eyes were wide, terrified. He yanked the door handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. He pounded on the glass again, screaming words he wouldn't remember later. The SUV was 50 feet away. 40. The woman fumbled with the lock button. 30 feet. The door opened. Marcus grabbed her arm and pulled. She came out of the car in an awkward tangle of limbs and expensive fabric. He wrapped both arms around her and threw them both backward onto the sidewalk. His shoulder hit concrete first, then his head. Pain exploded behind his eyes. The crash was deafening. Metal shrieked against metal. Glass shattered. Car alarms started screaming. Someone was screaming too. Maybe it was him. Everything stopped. Marcus opened his eyes. Rain hit his face. The woman was on top of him, breathing hard, her hand clutched in his jacket. She was shaking. No, they were both shaking. He could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive that didn't belong in his world. Beyond her shoulder, where the sedan had been, there was just twisted metal and steam rising into the rain. She pushed herself up. Her hands were still shaking. There was a cut on her cheek, a thin line of blood mixing with rainwater. She stared down at him like she'd never seen another human being before. "Are you hurt?" Marcus managed to say. His voice sounded wrong, distant. She didn't answer. People were running toward them now. Voices overlapped. Someone was on their phone with 911. Marcus tried to sit up. His head swam. The woman was still staring at him with those wide eyes. Brown eyes. Expensive makeup running slightly at the corners. "Miss, are you okay?" A man in a business suit crouched beside them. She nodded slowly, not looking away from Marcus. "This man just saved your life," the businessman said. "Did you see that?" He pulled her right out. 2 seconds later and Marcus got to his feet. His legs felt unsteady. His shoulder throbbed where it had hit the ground. His head was worse. He could feel wetness in his hair that might be blood. The convenience store manager was standing in the doorway, staring at the spilled mop bucket, at Marcus standing in the street instead of working. The woman stood up too. She was tall, taller than he'd expected. Her clothes probably cost more than Marcus made in 6 months. She opened her mouth to say something. Marcus turned and walked away. "Wait." Her voice cut through the rain and the noise. "Wait, please. I need to thank you. I need to know your name." He kept walking. His shoulder bag was still inside the convenience store. His mop bucket was sideways on the ground, dirty water pooling in the entrance. The manager's expression told him everything he needed to know about his job security. "Sir, please wait." She was following him. "You saved my life. I can't just let you walk away." Marcus stopped at the convenience store entrance. The manager blocked his path. "You left your post," the manager said. His name tag read Steve. He was 23 and had never once smiled at Marcus in the 3 months Marcus had worked there. "You left a mess. You abandoned your equipment." "There was an accident," Marcus said. "I don't care if there was an earthquake." Steve crossed his arms. "You don't leave in the middle of a shift. You know the rules." The woman appeared at Marcus's elbow. Up close, she was probably in her early 40s, with sharp cheekbones and hair that had probably been perfect before the rain. There was authority in the way she stood, even soaking wet and shaking. "This man just saved my life," she said to Steve. Her voice was steady now, cold. "He pulled me from my car seconds before impact. You're concerned about a mop bucket." Steve's face reddened. "I don't know what happened out there, but this man has a job to do. If he can't do it, I'll find someone who can." "You're firing him." She said it like the words didn't make sense. I'm terminating his employment for abandoning his post. Yes. Steve looked at Marcus. Clear out your locker. I'll mail your final check. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. Not surprise. He'd been expecting this for weeks, ever since he'd had to call out when Emma got sick. Ever since he'd asked for an advance on his paycheck to cover her medication. This was just the excuse Steve had been waiting for. This is absurd, the woman said. She had her phone out now, raindrops beating on its screen. I'll call my lawyer. This is wrongful termination. It's fine, Marcus interrupted. He looked at Steve. The locker's already empty. I'll leave my uniform in the bathroom. He walked past them both. The bathroom was a single stall that smelled like chemical cleaner and desperation. Marcus peeled off the convenience store polo shirt with its cheerful logo and left it folded on the sink. His own shirt underneath was old, thin, with a small hole near the hem. He splashed water on his face. The mirror showed him what he'd expected. A tired man with graying hair at 32, a bruise already forming on his temple, blood in his hairline. When he came out, the woman was still there. Steve had gone back inside. Police cars were arriving at the crash site, the lights painting everything red and blue. I'm Catherine Wright, the woman said. She held out her hand. Marcus looked at it. Her nails were perfectly manicured. There were rings on 3 fingers, gold and diamonds. He thought about his own hands, rough and cracked from cleaning chemicals, dirt permanent under his nails. Marcus, he said. He didn't take her hand. Something flickered across her face. Not offense. Something else. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. She lowered her hand. You saved my life, Marcus. I want to repay you. Please, let me help. You just lost your job because of me. I lost my job because I have a bad manager, Marcus said. That's not on you. But I can fix it. I can call the owner of this chain. I can make sure you get your job back, with back pay, with a raise. I can. I need to go. Marcus picked up his shoulder bag from behind the counter. Steve didn't even look at him. My daughter's waiting. He walked away before Catherine Wright could say anything else. The rain was getting heavier. His bus stop was 4 blocks away. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He already knew it would be Emma's after-school program, wondering why he was late for pickup. He was always late for pickup. They were used to it. They'd watch Emma until he got there. Their disapproval carefully masked his concern. The convenience store lights faded behind him. Marcus didn't look back. He never looked back. Looking back was another luxury he couldn't afford. Behind him, Catherine Wright stood in the rain, watching him disappear into the gray afternoon. She was still shaking. The police were asking her questions, but she couldn't hear them. All she could hear was the screech of metal, the feeling of hands grabbing her, pulling her to safety. All she could see was the way that man had walked away, like saving a life was just another thing that happened on a Tuesday. She'd been in the city for 18 years, running her company, building her empire. She'd met presidents and celebrities. She'd negotiated billion-dollar deals in rooms where one wrong word could cost millions. But she'd never met anyone who'd saved her life and then just walked away without asking for anything. Catherine Wright always paid her debts. Always. She turned to the police officer trying to get her attention. I need the name of the man who pulled me out of the car. I need to know where he lives. The officer frowned. I understand you want to thank him, but we can't give out personal information. Then find another way, Catherine said. Her voice had edges now, the voice that made board members nervous. I need to find him. I need to know who he is. The officer nodded slowly. He'd seen that look before, in the eyes of people who were used to getting what they wanted. What Catherine didn't know yet was that finding Marcus Hayes would be the easy part. Understanding him, understanding the world he lived in, understanding what she'd seen in his eyes when he'd refused her help, that would be something else entirely. And what Marcus didn't know yet, as he stood at the bus stop with rain soaking through his jacket, as he counted the dollar bills in his wallet and tried to figure out how he'd pay for dinner, was that walking away from Catherine Wright was the beginning of something, not the end. Sometimes the people we save end up saving us back. But first, there's always the fall. The bus pulled up. Marcus climbed aboard. The driver didn't look at him. No one ever really looked at him. That was fine. Being invisible had its advantages. Invisible people didn't get in trouble. Invisible people kept their heads down and survived. Marcus Hayes had been surviving for a long time. He'd gotten good at it. But survival isn't the same thing as living. And sooner or later, even invisible people get seen. 18 months ago, Marcus Hayes had been someone else. Not wealthy, never that, but stable. He'd worked in building maintenance at the downtown hospital, had health insurance, had a wife, had a future that looked something like normal. He believed in working hard and following the rules. He believed that good things happened to good people if you just kept your head down and did your job. Then Sarah got sick. It started with fatigue she couldn't shake. Then came the headaches. By the time they found the tumor, it was already stage 4. The doctors gave her 6 months. She made it to 7, fighting every day, refusing to let go. Marcus sat beside her hospital bed every night after his shift, holding her hand while she slept. Emma was 3 years old. She didn't understand why Mommy was always tired, why Mommy cried sometimes for no reason, why Mommy's hair was gone. The medical bills started arriving before Sarah died. They kept coming after. Insurance covered some of it. The rest was a mountain Marcus couldn't climb. He sold their car. He sold Sarah's jewelry, the few pieces she'd inherited from her grandmother. He borrowed from his brother until his brother stopped answering his calls. He took out payday loans with interest rates that should have been illegal. Nothing was enough. The hospital where he worked let him go 6 weeks after Sarah's funeral. Budget cuts, they said. Last hired, first fired. The fact that he'd been taking time off to care for Emma didn't help. The fact that he sometimes fell asleep at his desk, exhausted from grief and single parenting, made the decision easier for them. After that came the scramble. Marcus took whatever work he could find. Night security at a warehouse, day labor at construction sites, cleaning offices after hours. The apartment they'd rented became too expensive. He moved Emma to a smaller place in a worse neighborhood, then to an even smaller place. Now they lived in a studio apartment with water stains on the ceiling and heat that only worked half the time. Emma slept on the bed. Marcus slept on the floor beside her, a pillow and a thin blanket between him and the cold. Every morning, Marcus woke up at 5. He made Emma breakfast, usually oatmeal or toast, sometimes just cereal if he'd been able to buy milk. He got her dressed, braided her hair the way Sarah used to, walked her to the before-school program at 6:30. Then he worked, cleaning job from 7 to noon. If he was lucky, a few hours of day labor in the afternoon. Another cleaning job in the evening. He picked Emma up at 6, bought her dinner from whatever fast food place had the cheapest kids' meal, helped her with homework at the small table in their apartment. She fell asleep around 8. Marcus kept working. There was always laundry, always dishes, always something that needed fixing in the apartment that the landlord wouldn't fix himself. Around 10, if he was lucky, Marcus slept for a few hours. Then he started again. Emma never complained. She was 5 now, with her mother's dark hair and her mother's quiet way of watching the world. She didn't ask why they'd moved so many times. She didn't ask why Marcus always looked tired. She didn't ask why other kids had new backpacks and toys and birthday parties while she wore hand-me-downs from the church donation box. She just held his hand when they walked to school. She said thank you for every meal. She told him she loved him every night before bed. Marcus was failing her. He knew it. Every day he was failing her a little more. The convenience store job had been his most recent attempt at stability. Minimum wage, no benefits, but it was daytime hours and it was regular. Steve, the manager, had made it clear from day one that Marcus was replaceable. There were always more desperate people willing to work for nothing. Marcus had tried to be invisible, to do his job perfectly, to never give Steve a reason to let him go. And then Catherine Wright's car had stalled in an intersection. The day after the accident, Marcus went looking for work. He checked every store on his usual route, filled out applications at 3 different fast food restaurants, asked about openings at the grocery store where he sometimes picked up shifts unloading trucks. Nothing. Everyone was cutting hours, not hiring. The economy was tight. There were always more workers than jobs. By the 3rd day, Marcus was getting worried. By the 5th day, he was getting scared. The bills didn't stop. Rent was due in a week. Emma needed new shoes. Her current ones had holes in the soles. The school was asking for money for a field trip. $20 that might as well have been $20,000. Marcus's phone kept ringing with numbers he didn't recognize. Collection agencies looking for payments on debts he'd never be able to pay. He stopped answering the phone. He stopped opening the mail. On the 7th day after the accident, Marcus was waiting outside the day labor office at 5 in the morning when a man approached him. "You're the guy from the news," the man said. He was older, maybe 60, with the weathered skin of someone who'd worked outside his whole life. Marcus hadn't watched the news. He didn't have cable. He didn't even own a TV anymore. He'd sold it months ago. "What news?" Marcus asked. "The accident. The billionaire lady whose car got hit. Someone filmed the whole thing on their phone." The man pulled out his own phone, swiped a few times, held it out. "It's all over social media. You're like a viral hero or something." The video was grainy, shot from across the street. Marcus watched himself run toward the car, watched himself pull Catherine right out seconds before impact. The video had 3 million views. The comments were endless. "So brave. This man is a hero. Why did he just walk away? Someone find this guy." That last comment had hundreds of replies. People speculating about who he was, where he worked, why he'd disappeared. Someone had posted a screenshot from another angle, trying to enhance the image of his face. Someone else claimed to have identified the convenience store. Marcus felt something cold crawl up his spine. "That's you, right?" the old man said. "No," Marcus said. He handed the phone back. "Just looks like me." The man studied him for a moment, then shrugged. "If you say so." But the damage was done. By that afternoon, someone had identified Marcus. By the next morning, his name was attached to the video. By the day after that, news vans were parked outside the convenience store where he'd worked. Reporters were asking Steve questions about his former employee. Steve gave them what they wanted. Marcus Hayes was terminated for abandoning his post during work hours, Steve told Channel 7 News. His face was serious, responsible. "We understand that he assisted someone during an accident, but that doesn't excuse violating company policy. We have standards. We have rules. If we let one employee break the rules, where does it end?" The reporter nodded sympathetically. "And there are other concerns about Mr. Hayes' employment history." "I'm not at liberty to discuss personnel matters in detail," Steve said, "but I can say that Mr. Hayes had multiple performance issues during his brief time here. Tardiness, incomplete work. We'd already had conversations about his future with the company." None of that was true. Marcus had been late once, when Emma had a doctor's appointment he couldn't reschedule. The incomplete work had been the day of the accident, when he'd left his mop bucket to save Catherine Wright's life. But truth didn't matter. The story was already being written. Marcus watched the news segment on a phone someone held up at the day labor office. Other workers gathered around, watching with him. He saw their faces change as they recognized him. Some looked impressed. Others looked suspicious. One man walked away immediately. "You're that guy," someone said. Marcus left. He didn't get any work that day. The problem with becoming visible, Marcus realized, was that people started asking questions. And once they started asking questions, they started finding answers. Someone tracked down his old apartment building. Someone found the record of Sarah's death. Someone discovered the mountain of medical debt. Someone noticed that Marcus Hayes had declared bankruptcy 8 months ago. Someone wondered why a man who'd saved a billionaire's life was living in a studio apartment in the worst part of the city. The story shifted. Now Marcus wasn't just a hero. He was a victim, a tragic figure, a poor single father struggling to survive. The comments under the videos changed. Someone should help this man. The billionaire he saved should give him money. This is what's wrong with America. Marcus wanted them to stop. He wanted all of it to stop. Being invisible had been better. Being nobody had been safer. But it got worse. Someone from Emma's school saw the videos. Someone recognized Marcus from drop-off. By the time he picked Emma up that day, the director of the after-school program was waiting for him. "Mr. Hayes, we need to talk." They sat in a small office that smelled like crayons and industrial cleaner. Emma was in the other room, playing with blocks, unaware. "There are concerns," the director said. She was young, probably younger than Marcus, with kind eyes that wouldn't quite meet his. about Emma's situation, about your ability to provide adequate care. I take good care of my daughter, Marcus said. His voice came out harder than he intended. I'm sure you do. But the school has a responsibility. When a child's parent is facing financial hardship, when there are questions about housing stability, about consistent meals, about supervision. She trailed off. We're mandated reporters, Mr. Hayes. When we see signs of potential neglect. I'm not neglecting my daughter. Marcus stood up. The chair scraped against the floor. She's fed. She's clothed. She's loved. But is she safe? The director's voice was gentle. That was worse somehow than if she'd been angry. Is your housing situation stable? Can you afford to keep her in appropriate living conditions? We've noticed that Emma's been wearing the same clothes multiple days in a row. That she's been falling asleep during class. That she seems hungry at snack time, like she's not getting enough to eat at home. Every word was a punch to the gut. Marcus thought about Emma eating toast for breakfast every morning because that's all there was. He thought about her worn-out shoes, her too small coat, the way she never asked for seconds at dinner because she'd learned there weren't any. I'm doing my best, Marcus said. I know you are. The director's eyes were sad. But sometimes our best isn't enough. Sometimes children need more than we can give them. What are you saying? I'm saying that I'm required to report this situation to Child Protective Services. They'll do an evaluation. They'll make sure Emma is in a safe environment. If everything is fine, then nothing will happen. But if they find that your living situation is inadequate, if they determine that Emma would be better off in foster care while you get back on your feet. Marcus couldn't hear the rest. There was a ringing in his ears, high-pitched and constant. Foster care. They were going to take Emma. They were going to take the only thing he had left. Please, Marcus said. The word came out broken. Please don't do this. I'll figure it out. I'll get a better job. I'll find a better place. Just give me a chance. I'm sorry, Mr. Hayes. This isn't a choice. It's the law. Marcus walked out of that office in a daze. He collected Emma, who smiled when she saw him, who grabbed his hand and told him about the picture she'd drawn that day. They walked home through streets that felt different now, threatening. Every person who looked at them might be judging. Every car might be following. Every decision Marcus made, every meal, every moment, was evidence that could be used against him. That night, Marcus lay awake on the floor while Emma slept above him. He could hear her breathing, soft and steady. He thought about Sarah, about how hard she'd fought to stay alive for Emma. He thought about all the promises he'd made to her in those final weeks. Take care of our baby. Make sure she's happy. Don't let her forget me. He was failing. He'd failed at keeping Sarah alive. He was failing at keeping Emma safe. He was failing at everything that mattered. And somewhere across the city, in a penthouse apartment Marcus couldn't even imagine, Catherine Wright was probably sleeping in a bed that cost more than he made in a year, protected by security he'd never have, safe in a world where accidents were just minor inconveniences and poverty was something that happened to other people. Marcus had saved her life, and for that, he was losing everything. The irony wasn't lost on him, but irony didn't pay rent. Irony didn't keep your child from being taken away. Marcus closed his eyes. Tomorrow he would get up at 5. Tomorrow he would keep trying. Tomorrow he would figure something out. But somewhere in the darkness, in a place he didn't want to acknowledge, Marcus was starting to believe that tomorrow wouldn't be any different from today. That he was trapped in a spiral he couldn't escape. That no matter how hard he worked, no matter how much he sacrificed, it would never be enough. The bills kept coming. The threats kept coming. And now Child Protective Services would be coming too. Marcus Hayes had saved a life, and the world was punishing him for it. If only he'd known that the woman whose life he'd saved was watching too. That Catherine Wright hadn't forgotten him. That even now, she was making calls, asking questions, pulling on threads that would unravel everything Marcus thought he knew about what came next. But he didn't know. So he lay on the cold floor and tried to believe that tomorrow would be better, even though he'd stopped believing in better a long time ago. Emma stirred in her sleep. She reached down over the edge of the bed, her small hand finding his shoulder the way she did every night, making sure he was still there, making sure she wasn't alone. Marcus held her hand and tried not to cry. He failed at that too. Catherine Wright stood in her corner office 70 floors above the city and watched the morning light paint the skyline gold. She hadn't slept well. She hadn't slept well since the accident. Every time she closed her eyes, she was back in that car, watching the SUV come toward her, knowing she was about to die. Then hands grabbed her, pulled her to safety, and she was breathing rain-soaked air and staring up at a man who'd saved her life and wanted nothing from her in return. She'd built her company from nothing. Started as a programmer in a basement office 20 years ago, coding until her eyes burned, living on ramen and ambition. Now Wright Tech employed 12,000 people across 6 continents. Her software ran half the world's financial systems. Her net worth was measured in billions. She'd been on the cover of Forbes 3 times. She'd given the commencement speech at her alma mater. She'd met with world leaders to discuss the future of technology and privacy. She'd never felt powerless. Not once in her adult life. Until a janitor named Marcus Hayes walked away from her without asking for anything. "Ms. Wright." Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Your 9 o'clock is here." "Send them in," Catherine said. The door opened. James Chen walked in, carrying a leather folder. He was her head of security, former FBI, the kind of person who found answers to questions other people didn't know how to ask. "You have something for me?" Catherine said. It wasn't a question. James set the folder on her desk. Marcus Anthony Hayes, 32 years old, lives in the Riverside district with his 5-year-old daughter, Emma. Wife died of brain cancer 18 months ago. Medical debt approximately $380,000. Currently unemployed as of the accident. Previous employment history is unstable. Multiple jobs over the past year, all minimum wage positions. Catherine opened the folder. There was a photo of Marcus, probably from some workplace ID. He looked younger in it, less tired. There were other documents. Tax returns showing an income that made Catherine's stomach turn. A copy of his lease for an apartment that couldn't be more than 400 square feet. Medical bills with red stamps marked overdue. A bankruptcy filing from 8 months ago. He declared bankruptcy, Catherine said. Yes, but it didn't cover the medical debt. That's still following him. The collections agencies are persistent. His being garnished from every paycheck, which is probably why he was working multiple jobs. Catherine turned a page. There was a school report on Emma Hayes. 5 years old. Attending kindergarten at Riverside Elementary. Teacher's notes mentioned that Emma was quiet, well-behaved, sometimes seemed tired or hungry. There was a note dated 3 days ago, referred to CPS for wellness check due to concerns about home environment stability. They're investigating him, Catherine said. Yes. The school director filed a report yesterday. Child Protective Services will do a home visit within the next week. They'll evaluate the living conditions, his ability to provide for the child, his employment status. James paused. Given what's in this file, there's a good chance they'll recommend removing the daughter from his care, at least temporarily. Catherine closed the folder. She could feel anger building in her chest, hot and sharp. He saved my life, and the system is punishing him for it. He got fired for leaving his post, James said carefully. The store manager was within his rights. The store manager is an idiot. Catherine walked to the window. What else? He's been trying to find work. No luck. The viral video didn't help. Some employers see him as a liability now, someone who'll abandon his job to play hero. Others assume he's looking for a payout, that he'll sue for wrongful termination or try to leverage his connection to you. Several have told him directly they don't want the attention that comes with hiring him. So saving my life has destroyed his, Catherine said quietly. It's more complicated than that. His life was already difficult. The accident just made things worse faster. Catherine thought about Marcus's face in the rain, the way he'd refused her help, the exhaustion in his eyes. She thought about his hands, rough and scarred from hard work. She thought about how he'd saved her and then walked away like it meant nothing. I want to help him, Catherine said. How? I don't know yet, but start with getting him his job back. Call the owner of that convenience store chain. Make it clear that firing Marcus Hayes was a mistake and that I'd consider it a personal favor if they rehired him with back pay. James made a note. That might not work. If you apply too much pressure, it'll look like intimidation. It could make his situation worse. Then find another way. Set up an interview at one of our subsidiaries, a maintenance position, something stable with benefits. He'll know it's charity. I don't care what he thinks it is. His daughter is about to be taken away because he lost his job saving my life. I'm not going to let that happen. James was quiet for a moment. There's something else you should know. Catherine turned away from the window. The accident wasn't an accident, James said. The SUV that hit your car. The driver fled the scene. Police tracked the vehicle to a rental company. It was rented under a fake name. They are investigating it as a possible attempted homicide. The floor seemed to tilt. Catherine gripped the edge of a desk. Someone tried to kill me. That's the working theory. The timing was too perfect. Your car stalling. The SUV running the red light at high speed. They are looking into your business rivals, disgruntled employees, anyone who might have a motive. How long have you known this? Police briefed me yesterday. They're keeping it quiet while they investigate. They don't want to tip off whoever arranged it. James looked at her steadily. You need additional security. I've already arranged for detail. They'll be subtle, but they'll be with you everywhere. Catherine barely heard him. She was thinking about Marcus Hayes, about how he'd pulled her from that car without hesitation, without knowing who she was, without caring. If someone had arranged that accident, if someone had tried to kill her, then Marcus had interfered with murder. He'd saved her life, yes, but he'd also put himself in the crosshairs of whoever wanted her dead. Does Marcus know? Catherine asked. Does he know the accident was attempted murder? No. The police haven't released that information. Keep it that way. If he's already being targeted by the media, by Child Protective Services, by everyone else, adding death threats will just make things worse. Catherine opened the folder again, looked at the photo of Emma Hayes, a small girl with dark hair and serious eyes, 5 years old, about to lose her father. Find them. Find Marcus Hayes and his daughter. I want to know where they live, what they need, how I can help without making it obvious that I'm helping. And do it fast, before CPS shows up, before his situation gets any worse. James nodded. He understood. Catherine Wright paid her debts, always. And Marcus Hayes had saved her life. That evening, James sent her an address. Catherine left her office at 6. Her new security detail followed at a discreet distance. She took her car, the new one that replaced the sedan destroyed in the accident. The drive across the city took 40 minutes, from the gleaming financial district to neighborhoods that had been forgotten by the boom and left behind by the recovery. The apartment building where Marcus lived was a squat 3-story structure with peeling paint and bars on the ground floor windows. Catherine parked across the street. James had texted her the apartment number. 3rd floor, Unit 3B. The lights were on. She sat in her car and watched. At 6:30, Marcus appeared on the sidewalk, holding Emma's hand. The little girl was wearing a pink coat that was too small, her wrists showing past the sleeves. Marcus carried a backpack, probably Emma's school bag. They walked slowly. Marcus looked like every step hurt. They went into the building. Catherine waited. 15 minutes later, lights came on in a 3rd-floor window. She could see movement inside. Just shapes, nothing detailed. But she could imagine it. A father and daughter in a space too small, eating dinner that probably wasn't enough, pretending everything was fine. Catherine's phone buzzed. A text from James. CPS visit scheduled for Thursday morning at 9. That's 3 days away. 3 days. Marcus had 3 days before someone from the government came to decide if he was fit to raise his own daughter. 3 days to prove that poverty wasn't neglect, that being poor didn't make him a bad father. Catherine thought about her own apartment, the penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows and rooms she never used. She thought about the money in her accounts, numbers so large they stopped meaning anything. She thought about all the things she owned that she didn't need, didn't want, didn't even remember buying. She'd built an empire. She'd conquered her industry. She'd won every battle she'd ever fought. But sitting in her car, watching the window of a broken-down apartment where a hero lived in poverty with his daughter, Catherine Wright felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt helpless, and she felt ashamed. Marcus Hayes had saved her life and asked for nothing. The world had punished him for it. And now his daughter would pay the price too. 3 days. Catherine had 3 days to figure out how to fix this. 3 days to help a man who'd refused to help. 3 days to do something that mattered more than quarterly earnings or stock prices or any of the things she usually spent her time caring about. Catherine pulled out her phone. She called James. "Whatever it takes," she said when he answered. "I want you to find a way to help Marcus Hayes without him knowing it's from me. Pay his rent. Stock his apartment with food. Make sure Emma has what she needs. And find him a job, something real, something that will satisfy CPS." "That's a lot to arrange in 3 days," James said. "Then work fast. And James, be subtle. If he finds out this is from me, he'll refuse. I know he will. So make it look like luck. Make it look like the universe finally giving him a break instead of taking everything away." She hung up. She sat in her car for another hour, watching that third-floor window. At some point, the lights dimmed. Bedtime, probably. A father putting his daughter to sleep, maybe reading her a story, maybe just holding her hand until she drifted off. Catherine had never wanted children. Her company was her child, demanding and all-consuming. She'd never regretted that choice. But watching that window, imagining Marcus and Emma in their small world, Catherine felt something shift inside her. Some understanding she couldn't quite name about what mattered and what didn't. About the difference between building an empire and building a life. She started her car. The drive back to her penthouse was quick, no traffic at this hour. The elevator to her floor was silent and smooth. Her apartment was exactly as she'd left it, perfectly clean and perfectly empty. Catherine poured herself a drink. Expensive scotch, aged 25 years. It tasted like smoke and regret. Somewhere across the city, Marcus Hayes was sleeping on the floor beside his daughter's bed. He didn't know that Catherine was trying to help him. He didn't know that someone had tried to murder her. He didn't know that in 3 days, someone would come to take Emma away. He just knew he was tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of failing. Tired of trying to be enough when enough was always just out of reach. Catherine finished her drink. She made a decision. Tomorrow she would do more than try to help from a distance. Tomorrow she would find a way to face Marcus Hayes directly, to make him understand that saving her life had meant something, that he wasn't invisible anymore, that someone saw him and refused to look away. Tomorrow she would do what she should have done in the rain after he saved her life. She would say thank you, and she would mean it. But first, there was tonight. And tonight, both Marcus and Catherine lay awake in their separate worlds, both thinking about that moment in the rain when everything changed, both wondering if it was possible to save someone who didn't want to be saved. The answer was yes. But it wouldn't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever was. The knock on Marcus's door came at 7 in the morning. He was awake already, making oatmeal for Emma, who sat at their small table with a picture book. She'd been quiet lately, more than usual. She knew something was wrong even if Marcus hadn't told her. Marcus opened the door expecting a neighbor or maybe the landlord complaining about something. Instead, he found Catherine Wright standing in his hallway. She looked different from the rain-soaked woman he'd pulled from the car. Her hair was perfect, styled in a way that probably took an hour. She wore a dark suit that fit like it had been made for her, which it probably had. But her eyes were the same, brown and intelligent and fixed on him with that same intensity. "Mr. Hayes," she said, "may I come in?" Marcus glanced back at Emma, who was watching with wide eyes. "This isn't a good time." "I know. I'm sorry, but I need to talk to you." Catherine's voice was firm but not unkind. "Please, 5 minutes." Marcus stepped back. He didn't have the energy to argue. Catherine walked into the studio apartment, and he watched her take it in with one quick sweep. The stained ceiling, the worn carpet, the bed that was also the couch, the tiny kitchen area with its ancient refrigerator. Emma at the table, still staring. "You must be Emma," Catherine said. She crouched down, bringing herself to the girl's eye level. "I'm Catherine. Your dad helped me a few weeks ago. I wanted to come say thank you." Emma looked at Marcus. He nodded. She turned back to Catherine. "Daddy helps people," Emma said. "That's what Mommy said. She said Daddy has a good heart." Something crossed Catherine's face, quick and painful. "Your mommy was right." She stood up, turned to Marcus. Can we talk? Maybe outside. Marcus looked at Emma. I'll be right back. Okay? Stay here. Keep reading your book. Okay, Daddy. They went into the hallway. Marcus closed the door but stayed where he could see through the gap. Catherine stood a few feet away, her expensive perfume competing with the smell of mildew and old cooking. Why are you here? Marcus asked. Because in 3 days, Child Protective Services is coming to inspect this apartment and decide if you're fit to raise your daughter, Catherine said. Because you lost your job saving my life and now everything is falling apart for you. Because I know what's in your refrigerator right now, which is almost nothing. Because I know you're 2 weeks late on rent and your landlord is preparing to evict you. Because I know that the universe has punished you for doing the right thing and I can't live with that. Marcus felt cold. How do you know all of this? I had someone look into your situation. I needed to understand how bad things were. You investigated me. Yes, and I'm not sorry. Catherine's voice was steady, unapologetic. You saved my life, Marcus. The least I can do is make sure that doesn't destroy yours. Marcus shook his head. I don't need charity. This isn't charity. This is a debt being paid. Catherine pulled an envelope from her jacket. There's a cashier's check in here for $50,000. It's yours. No strings attached. Use it to pay your rent, your medical bills, whatever you need. Take care of Emma. Get back on your feet. She held out the envelope. Marcus didn't take it. I can't accept that, he said. Why not? Because I didn't save you for money. I saved you because someone needed help and I was there. That's it. Taking money for it makes it something else. You think accepting help makes you weak, Catherine said. You think you have to do everything alone or it doesn't count. But that's not strength, Marcus. That's just pride. And pride won't keep Emma safe when CPS shows up and sees this place. The words hit hard because they were true. Marcus looked through the gap in the door at his daughter, still reading her book, unaware of the conversation that was deciding her future. Even if I wanted to take it, Marcus said, it wouldn't matter. CPS isn't just checking if I have money. They are checking if I have a job, if I can provide stability. A check doesn't prove that. Then let me help with that too. I have a position open at one of my companies. Building maintenance supervisor. Good pay, full benefits, normal hours. You're qualified for it. I checked your employment history. You know the work. You're offering me a job because you feel guilty. I'm offering you a job because you're qualified and because I need someone I can trust. Someone who does the right thing even when it costs them everything. Catherine stepped closer. Let me ask you something. If the situation was reversed, if I'd saved your life and then lost everything because of it, what would you do? Marcus didn't answer. He knew what he'd do. He'd help. Of course he would. That's what I thought, Catherine said. She set the envelope on the floor between them. The check is yours whether you take the job or not. The job offer is real. I'll text you the address and the hiring manager's name. Interview is tomorrow at 10 if you want it. But Marcus, listen to me. I've seen the CPS report. I know what they're looking for. Your apartment, your employment situation, Emma's clothes, and school attendance. If you don't make changes before Thursday, they will take her. Maybe not permanently, but they'll take her. Do you want that? Of course not. Then let me help. Catherine's voice softened. You saved my life. Let me save yours. That's not charity. That's just fairness. She walked toward the stairs. Halfway there, she turned back. You're a good father, Marcus. I can see that. But being a good father means accepting help when your daughter needs it. Pride is a luxury you can't afford anymore. She left. Marcus stood in the hallway, staring at the envelope on the floor. $50,000. Enough to pay his rent for a year. Enough to clear most of his debt. Enough to buy Emma new clothes, new shoes, everything she needed. He picked up the envelope. It was heavy, real. He went back into the apartment. Emma looked up from her book. Was that the lady from the car? Yes. She's nice, Emma said. She has kind eyes, like Mommy had. Marcus felt something break inside his chest. He sat down at the table next to his daughter. Emma, would you be okay if Daddy got a new job? Different hours, maybe a little further away. Will you still come get me from school? Every day. I promise. Then it's okay. Emma went back to her book. Just like that. Simple. She trusted him. Marcus opened the envelope. The check was real. $50,000 made out to Marcus Anthony Hayes. Signed by Catherine Wright in neat, precise handwriting. He could tear it up. He could refuse the job offer. He could keep doing things his way, alone, struggling, failing slowly but maintaining his dignity. Or he could accept help from someone who owed him nothing but was offering everything. The apartment was cold. The refrigerator was almost empty. Emma's shoes had holes. Rent was overdue. CPS was coming in 3 days. Marcus made his choice. He took the check to the bank that afternoon. The teller looked at the amount and called her manager. The manager looked at Marcus like he'd stolen it, asked 3 times where it came from, finally processed it after calling the issuing bank to verify. The money appeared in his account. A number so large Marcus stared at it for 5 full minutes. He paid his rent, paid 2 months ahead, paid his medical bills, clearing half his debt, bought Emma new clothes, new shoes, a winter coat that actually fit, stocked their refrigerator with real food, enough for weeks, bought himself work boots that didn't have holes, put the rest in savings for emergencies, because there were always emergencies. That night, Emma had seconds at dinner. She smiled. She'd almost forgotten how to smile. "This is good, Daddy," she said. "Yeah," Marcus said. "It is." The next morning, he went to the interview. The address Catherine had texted him led to a commercial office building downtown, the kind with revolving doors and a lobby made of marble. Marcus felt out of place in his thrift store slacks and the one dress shirt he owned. But he went anyway. The hiring manager was a woman named Patricia Chen. She looked at his resume, asked questions about his experience, nodded thoughtfully. The interview felt real, not like charity disguised as opportunity. She asked about his approach to maintenance management, his experience with team leadership, his thoughts on workplace safety. "The position starts Monday," Patricia said at the end. 7 to 3, weekdays. Benefits kick in after 90 days. Starting salary is $58,000. Marcus did the math in his head. That was 4 times what he'd been making. That was stability. That was a future. "I'll take it," he said. "Good." Patricia smiled. "Ms. Wright spoke highly of you. She said you're someone who does the right thing even when it's difficult. That's exactly who we need." Marcus left the building in a daze. On the sidewalk outside, he called the school. "This is Marcus Hayes," he said when the director answered. "I have a new job. I start Monday. Full-time, good pay, benefits. I paid my rent ahead. I bought Emma new clothes. When CPS comes on Thursday, they'll see that things are different. They'll see that I can provide for my daughter." There was a pause. "That's wonderful, Mr. Hayes. I'm glad things are improving." But her voice sounded wrong. "Careful. Is there a problem?" Marcus asked. "No problem. It's just that CPS will still need to complete their evaluation. Having a new job is good, but they'll want to verify everything. They'll want to make sure this change is permanent, not just temporary. They might still recommend temporary placement while they monitor the situation." "Temporary placement? You mean foster care?" "Just while they evaluate. It's not uncommon in cases like this." Marcus's vision blurred. "Cases like this? You mean cases where father is poor?" "Mr. Hayes, I understand you're upset, but this is about what's best for Emma. No one is questioning your love for your daughter. We're just making sure she's in a safe, stable environment." "She is. She will be. I hope that's true. I really do." Marcus hung up. He stood on the sidewalk in the financial district, surrounded by people in expensive suits rushing to important jobs, and realized that Catherine's help might not be enough. The system had decided he was failing, and changing that perception would take more than money or employment. It would take convincing people who'd already made up their minds that he was worth trusting with his own daughter. Thursday morning came too fast. Marcus spent Wednesday night cleaning the apartment until it gleamed. He arranged Emma's new clothes neatly in her corner. He filled the refrigerator, organized the cabinets, made sure everything looked perfect. Emma watched him work. "Why are you cleaning so much?" "Someone's coming to visit tomorrow," Marcus said. "I want them to see how nice our home is." "It is nice," Emma said. "I like it, hey. It's where we are together." Marcus hugged her. She was so small, so trusting. She had no idea what was at stake. The CPS caseworker arrived at 9 sharp. Her name was Angela Rodriguez. She was younger than Marcus expected, maybe 30, with tired eyes and a clipboard. She shook his hand, smiled at Emma, looked around the apartment with professional neutrality. "Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Hayes. This is just a routine evaluation. Nothing to worry about." But everything was worth worrying about. Marcus knew it. Angela knew it too. She asked questions about his employment history, about Emma's schedule, about meals and school and bedtime routines. She checked the refrigerator, the bathroom, looked at Emma's clothes. She asked Emma if she felt safe, if Daddy took good care of her, if there was anything that scared her. Emma said Daddy was the best, that she loved him, that their home was perfect. Angela wrote everything down. Her face revealed nothing. "I see you recently started a new job," Angela said. "Congratulations." "Thank you. I start Monday." "And you've paid your rent ahead, bought new clothes for Emma, stocked the apartment with food." Angela flipped through her notes. "That's a significant change from the report filed last week. Can I ask where the financial resources came from?" Marcus hesitated. The truth would sound like charity. Charity would sound like his situation wasn't sustainable. "Someone I helped repay a debt," Marcus said. "I came into some money. I used it to get back on my feet." "I see." Angela's tone was carefully neutral. "And this job you're starting Monday. How did you hear about the position?" "Through the same person. They connected me with the hiring manager." "The person you helped? The woman from the car accident?" "Yes." Angela wrote something down. "Mr. Hayes, I need to be honest with you. While I appreciate the improvements you've made, I have concerns about sustainability. Sudden financial windfalls and job offers from wealthy benefactors don't always indicate long-term stability. My recommendation will likely be to monitor the situation closely over the next 90 days. Emma can remain in your care during this period, but if circumstances change, if you lose this job or can't maintain the housing, we'll need to reevaluate." "So she stays with me," Marcus said. "For now, yes." Marcus felt relief so intense it was almost painful. Emma wasn't being taken away. Not today. But Angela's expression suggested this wasn't over. "There's something else. The school has reported that Emma seems tired, that she sometimes falls asleep in class. They're concerned about her sleep schedule. Are you ensuring she gets adequate rest?" "Yes. She's in bed by 8 every night." "But is she sleeping? Or is she lying awake, worried about your stress level, about money, about losing her home?" Marcus didn't have an answer for that. Because Angela was right. Emma did lie awake sometimes. She did worry. She was 5 years old and she'd already learned that the world was unstable, that homes could be lost, that people you loved could disappear. "I'll work on it," Marcus said. "Please do." Angela stood up. "I'll be back in 30 days for a follow-up visit. In the meantime, if anything changes, if you need resources or support, please reach out. We want to help, Mr. Hayes. We want Emma to succeed." She left. Marcus closed the door and sank onto the bed. Emma climbed up beside him. "Is she gone?" Emma asked. "Yes." "Was I good? Did I help?" "You were perfect, baby. So perfect." Emma hugged him. Marcus held her and tried to believe this was victory. Emma got to stay. He had a new job. Things were getting better. But he couldn't shake the feeling that the ground was still unstable beneath them, that one wrong move would send everything crashing down again. And he couldn't shake the knowledge that all of this, every good thing that had happened in the past week, existed because Catherine Wright had decided to help him. He was grateful, truly, but gratitude felt too much like dependence, and dependence felt too much like weakness. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I heard Emma gets to stay with you. I'm glad. You deserve good news. Take care of each other." It was from Catherine. Of course it was. She probably had Angela's report before Marcus did. She probably knew everything, saw everything, controlled everything. Marcus didn't respond. He just held his daughter and tried to remember what it felt like to solve his own problems, to be strong enough on his own, to not need saving. But the truth was, he needed saving. And Catherine Wright had saved him. the same way he'd saved her. Sometimes that's how life worked. You saved someone. They saved you back. And eventually, maybe you both learned that needing help wasn't weakness. It was just being human. Marcus wasn't there yet, but he was getting closer. Marcus's first week at Wright Properties went smoother than he expected. The maintenance team he supervised was small, competent, and didn't seem to resent reporting to someone new. The building was clean and well-maintained. His office was small but had a window. The work was familiar, comfortable. He knew how to fix things, how to manage systems, how to keep everything running. What he didn't know was how to ignore the whispers. He heard them in the break room, in the elevator, in the maintenance storage room. The new guy, the one who saved the boss, got the job because of it. Must be nice, having connections like that. Wonder how long he'll last. Marcus kept his head down. He arrived early, left late, did his work perfectly. He picked Emma up from school at 3:30 every day without fail. She was doing better, eating more, smiling more, sleeping through the night. The 30-day follow-up visit from Angela Rodriguez went well. She noted the stability, the consistency, Marcus's commitment to his job and to Emma's well-being. Her report was positive. Monitoring would continue. But the immediate threat of losing Emma had passed. Marcus should have felt safe. Instead, he felt like he was waiting for something to break. It broke on a Wednesday, 6 weeks after Catherine's visit to his apartment. Marcus was in the basement checking the heating system when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Hayes, this is Detective Sarah Park with the police department. I need to ask you some questions about the incident involving Catherine Wright's vehicle. Can you come to the station this afternoon? Marcus felt cold. What kind of questions? I'd rather discuss that in person. It's important. 2 hours later, Marcus sat in an interview room at the downtown precinct. Detective Park was a small woman with sharp eyes and the kind of intensity that made Marcus nervous. She set a folder on the table between them. Mr. Hayes, what I'm about to tell you is confidential. The information cannot leave this room. Do you understand? Yes. The accident involving Ms. Wright was not an accident. The SUV was rental. The driver used fake credentials, and the timing suggests premeditation. Someone tried to kill Catherine Wright. You prevented that by pulling her from the vehicle. The room tilted. Marcus gripped the edge of the table. We've made an arrest, Detective Park continued. The suspect is Richard Wright, Catherine's cousin and a member of her company's board of directors. He stands to inherit a significant portion of her estate and her shares in Wright Tech if she dies without direct heirs. Financial forensics revealed he was facing bankruptcy due to gambling debts. Killing Catherine would have solved his problems. He tried to murder her for money, Marcus said. Yes, and he would have succeeded if you hadn't been there. Detective Park opened the folder. This is where it gets complicated. Richard Wright's legal team is claiming the entire incident was staged, that you and Catherine planned it together to frame him. They are arguing that you're being paid off, that the job you received was compensation for playing along with a scheme to eliminate a business rival. Marcus couldn't breathe. That's insane. Is it? You saved her life, refused payment at the scene. Then suddenly you have a new job at one of her companies, $50,000 in your bank account, and a close relationship with one of the wealthiest women in the city. Richard's lawyers are going to paint you as a co-conspirator. They're going to argue that the whole thing was theater designed to get rid of Richard and make Catherine look like a victim. I didn't know anything about this. I just saved someone who needed help. I believe you. The evidence supports your innocence. But evidence doesn't always matter in court. What matters is the story the jury believes. And right now, Richard's lawyers are building a very convincing story about a janitor and a billionaire conspiring to commit fraud and false accusation. Detective Park leaned forward. Mr. Hayes, I need you to testify. I need you to tell your side of what happened that day. The truth. And I need you to be honest about everything, including the money Catherine gave you and the job offer. Won't that make it look like she was paying me off? It might, but lying about it would be wise. The truth is messy, but it's still the truth. You saved her life. She helped you in return. That's not conspiracy. That's gratitude. Marcus left the police station in a daze. He picked up Emma from school, made dinner, helped with homework, went through all the motions of normal life while his mind was elsewhere. That night, after Emma fell asleep, he texted Catherine, "We need to talk." She responded immediately, "Tomorrow. My office. 10 a.m. Marcus arrived at Right Tech headquarters at 9:45. The building was glass and steel, 70 floors of wealth and power. His work boots felt wrong on the marble lobby floor. Security checked his ID, called upstairs, gave him a visitor badge. The elevator to the executive floor was silent and fast. Catherine's assistant led him to her office. It was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Catherine stood at those windows, silhouetted against the morning light. "Marcus," she said, "thank you for coming. The detective told me about your cousin, about the murder attempt, about how his lawyers are trying to make me look like a co-conspirator. I know. I'm sorry. I never wanted you involved in this. I am involved. I saved your life. That made me a witness. Now it's making me a suspect." Catherine turned away from the windows. She looked tired, older somehow. Richard's lawyers are desperate. They'll say anything to create reasonable doubt. But they can't win. The evidence against him is overwhelming. The rental records, the financial motive, witness statements. You're not in danger of being charged with anything. But my reputation is. Again, Marcus felt anger building, hot and sharp. Every time I try to do the right thing, it destroys me. I saved you and lost my job. I took your help and now people think I'm a fraud. I testify against your cousin and the whole world will hear lawyers calling me a liar and a criminal. When does it stop? After the trial. After Richard is convicted. After the truth comes out and people see you for who you really are. And who am I? Catherine. Because right now, I don't even know anymore. Catherine walked toward him. She stopped a few feet away, close enough that Marcus could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight she carried. "You're someone who saves people," she said quietly. "Someone who does the right thing even when it costs everything. Someone who puts his daughter first, always. Someone who's strong enough to accept help when he needs it and humble enough to keep going when the world tries to break him. You make me sound like a hero. I'm not. I'm just a guy trying to survive. Heroes are just people trying to survive while doing the right thing. That's all heroism is, Marcus. Choosing kindness when cruelty would be easier. Choosing sacrifice when selfishness would be safer. You chose those things. That makes you a hero whether you accept the label or not." Marcus looked away. "I don't want to testify." "I know, but you have to. Not for me. Not for the case. For Emma." Catherine's voice was firm now. "If you don't testify, if you let Richard's lawyers control the narrative, then your reputation is destroyed anyway. But if you testify, if you tell the truth, then Emma will see her father standing up for what's right. She'll see you refuse to be intimidated by wealth or power or lawyers. She'll learn that truth matters, that doing the right thing matters, even when it's hard. Don't you want that for her?" Marcus thought about Emma, about the woman she would become, about the lessons she was learning from watching him navigate this impossible situation. "Fine," he said. "I'll testify. But after this is over, after the trial, I want to be left alone. No more help. No more debt. No more connection between us. I want my life back." Something flickered across Catherine's face. "Pain maybe, or understanding. If that's what you want," she said. "But Marcus, you should know something. This isn't a debt anymore. Somewhere along the way, it stopped being about what I owe you and started being about something else." "What?" "Respect. Friendship. Caring about what happens to you and Emma. I don't help you because I feel obligated. I help because I want to. Because you matter. Because your daughter matters." Marcus didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded and left. The trial took 3 weeks. Marcus testified on day 7. He told the truth about everything. The accident. The rescue. Catherine's offer of help. The money. The job. Richard Wright's lawyers tried to make it sound like conspiracy. They questioned every detail, suggested ulterior motives, painted Marcus as an opportunist who'd seen a chance to get rich and taken it. But Marcus didn't break. He answered every question honestly, met every accusation with calm truth. He explained that he'd saved Catherine because someone needed help. He'd taken her money because his daughter needed food and shelter. He'd accepted the job because he needed employment. Nothing sinister, nothing planned. Just a man trying to do right by his child. The jury believed him. Richard Wright was convicted of attempted murder, conspiracy, and a dozen other charges. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict was unanimous. Richard was led away in handcuffs, still protesting his innocence, still blaming Marcus and Catherine for his downfall. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Marcus pushed through them without comment. He picked up Emma from school, took her to the park, pushed her on the swings while she laughed. Normal things. Good things. That evening, Catherine called. "Thank you," she said, "for testifying, for telling the truth, for being you." "It's over now," Marcus said. "Yes, it's over." "Good." There was a pause. "Marcus, I meant what I said. About wanting to stay in your life. Not because of debt or obligation, but because you're important to me. Both of you are." Marcus looked at Emma, playing with her dolls on the bed. "I don't know how to do that. Have a friendship with someone like you. We're from different worlds. Then maybe it's time to build a new world. One where those differences don't matter as much as we think they do." Marcus thought about that. About what Catherine had done for him. About how she'd saved him the same way he'd saved her. About Emma, who needed good people in her life, people who showed up and cared and stayed. "Okay," he said, "but on my terms. No more huge gestures. No more checks or job offers. If we're friends, we're equals. That's the only way this works." "Deal," Catherine said. He could hear the smile in her voice. 6 months later, Marcus still worked at Wright Properties. He was good at his job, had earned the respect of his team, had stopped worrying about people's whispers. Emma was thriving in school, making friends, bringing home artwork that Marcus hung on every available wall of their apartment. Catherine visited sometimes. Not often, but enough that Emma got used to seeing her, started calling her Aunt Catherine. They'd have dinner together, the three of them in Marcus's small apartment, eating takeout and talking about normal things. Catherine never acted like a billionaire in those moments. She was just a person, someone who'd faced death and come out the other side grateful for life. Marcus never asked what would have happened if he hadn't been there that day, if he hadn't pulled Catherine from that car. But he thought about it sometimes. How one moment, one choice, could change everything. He'd saved Catherine's life. She'd saved his. They were even now. More than even. They were family in the way that mattered most. Not blood. Not obligation. Just choice. The choice to show up for each other. The choice to care. On a cold Saturday in March, Catherine took Marcus and Emma to the courthouse. Not for a trial this time. For something else. They stood in a judge's chambers with Angela Rodriguez, who'd completed her final evaluation of Marcus's parenting and closed the case with the recommendation that no further monitoring was necessary. The judge, a kind-faced woman in her 60s, smiled at them. "This is unusual," she said, "but Ms. Wright has made a compelling case." Catherine had filed paperwork to become Emma's legal guardian in the event something happened to Marcus. Not adoption, just backup. A safety net. Someone Emma could count on if the worst happened. "I don't have children of my own," Catherine told the judge. "But Emma matters to me. Her father matters to me. I want to make sure that if Marcus can't be there for her, someone else will. Someone who loves her." The judge approved it, signed the papers, made it official. Walking out of the courthouse, Emma held both their hands, skipping between them. She was humming something, happy and oblivious to the legal significance of what had just happened. Marcus looked at Catherine. "Thank you. For this. For everything." "Thank you," Catherine said. "For saving my life. For letting me be part of yours." They walked through the city together, three people who'd found each other in the middle of chaos and built something lasting from it. Not perfect, not easy, but real. Marcus thought about Sarah, about the promises he'd made her. Take care of Emma. Make sure she's happy. Don't let her forget me. He was doing that. With help? Yes, but he was doing it. Emma was safe. Emma was loved. Emma was growing up surrounded by people who showed up and cared and stayed. That night, after Emma was asleep, Marcus looked at his phone. There was a text from Catherine. "You're a good father. Marcus. Never doubt that. He typed back. You a good friend. Never doubt that either. Friends. They were friends now. Not hero and rescue. Not debtor and savior. Just two people who'd survived something terrible and come out the other side believing in each other. Marcus turned off his phone. He lay down on the floor beside Emma's bed, the way he did every night. But now the apartment was warm. The refrigerator was full. Emma's clothes fit. Bills were paid. Tomorrow Marcus would go to work at a job he was good at, a job he'd earned, a job that made him proud. He'd been invisible for so long, struggling for so long, failing for so long. Not anymore. People saw him now. Catherine saw him. Emma saw him. He saw himself. And what he saw was someone who'd done the impossible, who'd survived, who'd protected his daughter, who'd saved a life and accepted help when his own life needed saving. Marcus Hayes had learned the hardest lesson, that strength wasn't doing everything alone. Strength was knowing when to accept a hand up. Strength was choosing to keep going even when everything hurt. He made that choice. Every day, he made that choice. And every day, it got a little easier. Emma stirred in her sleep. Her hand reached down over the edge of the bed, finding his shoulder, making sure he was there, making sure she wasn't alone. Marcus held her hand and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would always be new challenges. But tonight, in this moment, everything was okay. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes okay is everything. And sometimes, the people we save end up saving us back. Catherine Wright had her life because of Marcus Hayes. Marcus Hayes had his life because of Catherine Wright. They were even. More than even. They were family. And that was the end of the story. But also the beginning. Because every ending is just a new start if you're brave enough to keep going. Marcus was brave enough. He always had been. He just hadn't known it until someone else saw it in him first.